Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going into something, well, something that really gets to the core of the human experience. It's this fundamental conflict, this place inside all of us where our deepest, rawest desire just collides with this powerful internal sense of prohibition.
Exactly. That internal friction is what we're focusing on.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because I think if you've ever had that feeling, that subtle kind of nameless dread, or that sense of being completely unfamiliar to yourself, you're feeling the pressure of that exact conflict.
That's it precisely. We're looking at the mind as, well, not as some rational unified kingdom. It's more of a contested territory.
A contested territory. I like that.
It is. It's governed by primal instinct clashing head-on with this internalized law.
So the goal here is to, what, learn the language of the unconscious?
In a way, yes. It speaks in symbols, in symptoms, not in clear sentences. We need to trace the architecture of this thing, this tangle of desire and prohibition, and see what happens when the very force of life is met with a command to be silent.
So to really understand that battle, we have to know the factions involved. There are three, right? Let's start with the engine, the drives.
The I, yes. It's what Freud called tribe. It's not just instinct. It's more like a constant pulsating current of life energy that is always demanding release.
It's non-negotiable. It just is.
It just is. And that primal force immediately meets its opposition, the superego.
And that is the judge.
The judge who never sleeps. It's the part of us that absorbs everything, the voice of our parents, cultural morality, what society expects. Its only job is to deliver a verdict on our desire before we even act.
And the verdict is usually guilty.
Or at least dangerous. It's always whispering that threat. If you do this, you will lose love. You will be rejected. You will be cast out.
And caught right in the middle of that is us, the ego.
Yes, the fragile mediator, the part we think of as I. And its job is just desperate. It's trying to keep the peace between the insatiable-eyed and the authoritarian superego.
Often by just pretending the war isn't even happening.
Or by making these compromises that leave us feeling, well, deeply unsatisfied.
So what is the fear here? What are we actually afraid of?
That's a vital question, because when we talk about repressed desire, it is so rarely the thing we want that's the real problem.
Right.
What is truly feared is what that desire reveals about us. To feel a genuine, unfiltered want, whether it's sexual or creative, is to be reminded that you are not in total control. You're moved by forces that are older than language. You are vulnerable. You are insatiable.
So the fear isn't of intimacy, say. It's the fear of admitting you need someone else. The fear of that vulnerability you've spent your whole life trying to bury.
Precisely. We spend our adult lives clinging to this illusion that we are these autonomous, self-sufficient beings, and desire just shatters that illusion.
So how does this whole structure get built in the first place? It has to start in childhood.
It does. It's what you could call the great burial. A child, it starts out completely curious, tactile. Desire is just present. It's like breathing.
There's no shame attached to it yet.
None at all. But then comes the rupture. And it's often not a big dramatic event. It's atmospheric, nonverbal.
Like a look?
It could be a mother's sudden withdrawal, a father's sharp tone, just a glance. And that sends a silent, terrifying message.
Which is?
This part of you is dangerous. If you show it, you will lose the love you need to survive.
For a child, the need for attachment it's everything. It's more important than being authentic. So the psyche just chooses amnesia over annihilation, an unconscious edit.
A profound survival strategy. And because the drive itself can't be destroyed, the energy has to be diverted. Redirected. So for example, raw genital curiosity, the thing that caused that parental shock, suddenly becomes a compulsive fascination with complex machines, or theoretical physics.
Something acceptable.
Exactly. Or a deep longing for physical touch becomes obsessive hand-washing. The erotic charge of looking at your own body becomes an avoidance of mirrors. The drive never vanishes. It just finds a detour the superego can live with.
It's unsettling to think how active that strategy still is in adulthood. So if the drive was buried successfully, how does it speak to us now?
Through symptoms. That's the code of the unconscious. That detour is still active decades later.
And it shows up as, what, feeling distant during intimacy?
That's a classic one. Or a sudden panic at the thought of being truly seen by a partner. Or even just this quiet internal expectation that you'll be stopped or punished right when you're about to get something you want.
I'm thinking of someone who feels, say, physically nauseous every time they get close to real vulnerability with someone.
A perfect example. It's not about the partner. The body is literally remembering a past moment where exposure meant danger. That nausea is a defense. It's a physical boundary the unconscious built years ago, and it's still on guard duty.
Or the person who can only feel aroused in situations of secrecy or risk.
Yes. The unconscious logic there is just fascinating. For that person, safety feels like a betrayal of the internal law that says desire must be hidden.
So the superego only allows the IAD to get what it wants if there's an immediate punishment attached.
The risk itself maintains the judge's authority. It's a perfect closed loop.
Okay, let's go deeper into how that wall is maintained. You use the word repression, but it's not just forgetting, is it?
No, it is active forgetting. It's a continuous, exhausting psychic effort to keep a specific awareness out of your conscious mind.
Like holding a beach ball underwater.
That's the perfect analogy. You might look calm on the surface, but the effort required to keep that impulse submerged is constant. It consumes enormous amounts of energy.
And that idea of energy getting blocked and twisting inward, that's the key. The root of so many neuroses isn't some literal event, but the psychic reality of being told no with a sense of shame.
Exactly. We all have to renounce things as we grow up, but when that's done with shame, the desire isn't processed, it's just buried alive.
And once that life energy, the libido, is blocked, it doesn't just go away.
It can't. It turns inward. It twists. And the symptom is never random. It is always a compromise between what the unconscious demands and what the ego thinks it can survive.
So the psyche is trying to express the drive.
While simultaneously punishing the self for even having it.
And this is where it gets really chilling for me. The idea that the repressed doesn't return as a memory, it returns as repetition.
The repetition compulsion, yeah.
That chronic, medically unexplained pain, or always ending up in the same kind of dead-end relationship. That's the body or the psyche remembering the need to shut down. You don't remember the wound, but you're forced to live it out again and again.
We see it so clearly in relationships. The person who was abandoned as a child often finds themselves compulsively choosing partners who are emotionally unavailable.
Recreating the original wound.
The psyche is desperately trying to master the trauma by repeating it, but ironically, it just keeps you stuck.
Which brings us to the cleverness of our own minds. The defense mechanisms we use to keep this whole system running.
The everyday tactics, yes, they are quite ingenious.
Can we walk through a few of the main ones? Let's start with projection.
Of course. Projection is the unconscious act of taking your own forbidden desires or impulses and attributing them to someone else. It keeps you feeling morally pure.
What would that look like in practice?
Well, think of someone who is struggling deep down with their own aggressive impulses. They might become absolutely convinced that other people in their community are corrupt or deceitful or secretly violent.
So it's safer to see the danger as being out there instead of in here.
Infinitely safer. The ego is completely shielded from a truth it finds unacceptable.
Okay, so that pushes the problem outward. What about something like reaction formation?
Reaction formation does the opposite. It transforms the forbidden impulse into its absolute, highly visible opposite.
So the person suppressing aggression
becomes excessively dutiful, overly saintly, compulsively caring. The kindness can be genuine, but its function is to be a barricade. It's there to ensure the underlying unacceptable impulse is never, ever seen.
It's a defense.
It's a defense. Think of the incredibly meticulous, clean person who is suppressing deep, chaotic urges. Their obsessive cleanliness is the constant, visible proof that they are not that chaotic person.
And then there's resistance. That quiet rebellion against your own healing. How do we know when that's happening?
It's the context. Resistance shows up right when you're approaching a breakthrough. It's that sudden, overwhelming urge to change the subject. The inexplicable fatigue when a conversation gets too real.
Forgetting an important detail.
Forgetting a crucial detail. The psyche is loyal to the old structure that kept it safe as a child. Dismantling that structure feels like death, even if the structure itself is what's causing all the pain now.
So the choice is between the pain, and the terror of freedom.
That's the core tension, and it helps us see the contrast with the alternative sublimation. Repression keeps that energy blocked, twisted, leaving you numb. Sublimation isn't denial, it's transformation. The erotic energy is consciously channeled to fuel art or thought or creation. Repression keeps you asleep. Sublimation lets you dream with your eyes open.
So what happens when that fortress, that whole defensive structure, finally starts to crack? You call it the flash of recognition. That sounds intense.
It is, and it's almost never an intellectual victory. It's not about suddenly understanding a theory. It's often described as a trembling.
A physical feeling.
A physical feeling, yes.
Yeah.
The breakthrough is rarely a fact. It's the arrival of emotional truth, what we call affect. It breaks through the crust of repression as this unexpected surge of grief or quiet awe or a white-hot rage you never knew you had.
And the revelation in that moment is...
The revelation is often, I was never the problem. The silence was. The core wound was the belief that your desire made you unlovable. And in that moment of feeling, that entire belief structure can just shatter.
So what does this all mean for actually living your life? The goal can't be to end all conflict.
Absolutely not. Conflict is part of being human. The goal is to live the conflict consciously, to stop repeating the past on autopilot and start making deliberate choices in the present.
Even if those choices are still scary.
Especially if they are. The fear doesn't just vanish, but what changes is your relationship to the fear.
Also.
It stops being evidence that you're broken or corrupt, and it becomes a signal.
A signal.
A sign that you are approaching something true, something that was buried and has been waiting for now.
This whole process it's a reclamation then.
It is a radical reclamation.
Yeah.
It hands you back the pieces of your own desire, not as a sin to be feared, but as a compass. It is the long, slow homecoming to yourself.
So when you feel that old familiar tension, that internal pullback when you're asked to be vulnerable, the first step is just to pause.
And ask the question.
What old alarm is ringing right now? Whose voice is this whispering, not here, not now, not you?
That's the beginning of conscious confrontation. What we've explored today shows us that the fear, the shame around our own core desires, it was never really about the desires themselves. It was about the terror of being fully exposed and fully alive.
Psychoanalysis doesn't give you the easy answers then.
It returns you to yourself, raw, unfinished, contradictory.
And that leaves us, and you, with the essential question to live with every day. The work is to stay with that discomfort until it reveals its gift.
And the question is this: what if I am allowed to want?